So shout out to Dominion Pest Control, who is in the Facebook group.
Yeah.
He posted this question a couple of weeks ago. He said, does anyone have any advice on how to get customers? I just started my company about 3 weeks ago. I've got a handful of people signed up, but I'm not making as much progress as I would like. Well, Dominion Pest Control, we feel your pain.
Yeah.
And you're in the right Facebook group because literally every other pest control owner that's in there has probably been where you have been. So me and Jake are going to share our 20 tips on how to go from starting your pest control company all the way down to adding your first, 50, 100, 150 so customers.
Yeah. Get you comfortable to get you started, get the ball rolling. Unless there's a magic wand for this, the first thing that I would say is there's really not an easy way. I think we can just go ahead right off the bat and take that 4-letter E word out of the equation. There are ways to get customers, lots of ways to get customers. If you have just started your pest control company and you're trying to put on accounts, you're trying to put on customers, and you need a way to go and you find your first 100, 150 customers, do not be afraid of getting your clipboard or getting your app or whatever and going door to door and introducing yourself as the owner of the company. And here are the magic words.
Welcome to the Bug Bucks Podcast, a podcast designed to turn you into a bug money millionaire. This episode is brought to you by Bug Bucks Plus, the #1 training and education platform designed to help you build and scale your pest control company. I'm your host, Eric Bassett, and of course, next to me as always, Jake Claus. What's up, dude?
What's up, Eric and my Bug Bucksers? What's happening?
Man, so we are recording this episode on July 1st, and sometimes these episodes, they get all kind
staggered,
of...
Yeah,
staggered around, but this one's getting recorded on July 1st, and we are about to have our epic 4th of July Natura fireworks showdown shenanigans parade. It's so wild, dude.
This is without question the busiest 5 days of the entire year for us.
100%.
100%. Yep.
Yeah. Anytime someone's like, "Oh, are you guys? Can we schedule this meeting? Can we do this thing? Can we have you do this? Whatever." It's like, no,
we don't do anything.
Can't do anything.
You know, it'd be really cool. Do you remember that TV show called The First or 48 Hours Before or whatever? Where they follow like the Westminster Dog Show.
Yes.
And it's like all the lead up, right? It would be really cool actually to have like a film crew follow us for the next for 3 days leading up to the 4th of July.
Yeah.
And just to see all the madness that happens. Yeah, we've got this. We do this big barbecue fireworks show at our house, 4th of July evening, and this last Father's Day we have a connection with fireworks, and I literally filled. I've got a 15-passenger transit van, it's like a 4x4 van, and the back 3 seats were removed, and we literally filled that van from top to bottom, front to back, with fireworks. So it's going to be a huge fireworks show.
It's going to be
huge.
Yeah, dude. I am super excited for this. Every single year it just gets bigger and bigger.
Yep.
And more people show up, and it's going to be awesome.
Epic.
Oh yeah, dude. So today we have a fantastic. It's not one topic. I guess it's a whole list of stuff we're going to give you guys.
I would hold off on the fantastic. Let's just...
Yeah, okay. We'll dial it back a little bit. Let me go back. Today we have a topic for you.
A topic.
It's actually going to come from our Facebook group. But before we dive into that, of course, for everybody listening, I want to remind you the best way to receive new episodes is by subscribing to our show on your preferred podcast platform like Apple, YouTube, Audible, or Spotify. If you love the show, please leave us a rating and a review. Make sure to check out our Facebook group, Bug Bucks Plus. That is BUGBUXPLUS. We've got over 4,300 other pest control owners in that group waiting to connect with you and share their thoughts. It's also the best way for you to share your feedback on our show and have your questions highlighted and discussed here on the podcast. So make sure you find us on Facebook and join the group so you can have something talked about, just like we're about to talk about today.
Speaking of highlighted and discussed on the podcast...
So shout out to Dominion Pest Control, who is in the Facebook group.
Yeah.
He posted this question a couple of weeks ago. He said, does anyone have any advice on how to get customers? I just started my company about 3 weeks ago. I've got a handful of people signed up, but I'm not making as much progress as I would like. Well, Dominion Pest Control. We feel your pain, and you're in the right Facebook group because literally every other pest control owner that's in there has probably been where you have been.
Yep.
So
my first thing to say is 3 weeks and you're not making $1 million yet. Come on, man.
Come on, dude. You got to pick up the pace.
Yeah,
those are rookie numbers. You got to build those numbers
Dominion.
up. So, me and Jake are going to share our 20 tips on how to go from starting your pest control company all the way down to adding your first 50, 100, 150 so customers.
Yeah, get you comfortable to get you started, get the ball rolling.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Tips.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
we're not going to go in.
we're not going to go into detail.
We're not going to go in depth. Just the tips.
Just this once.
Yep. Okay.
All right. So
I have a feeling Becky's going to edit that out.
Yeah, we're going to get edited. She's never going to let us do an episode by ourselves again.
Becky's going to throw in the towel. That's it.
Okay. So we're going to go through these one at a time. Kind of toggle back and forth here. Give our own 2 cents on each of these. So I'm going to start off. Number one. There's a lot of people who go out and they start their pest control company, quote unquote, start their company, right? And I just want to make sure here from a legal perspective, you got to make sure you have all your ducks in a row legally. Mm-hmm. We're talking about the business entity in your state, right? Go to the Secretary of State, actually file for a business entity. If you have questions about what to get, we can dive into that in some other episode. But LLC is a real classic version. After that, you got to get your employer identification number or your EIN from the IRS. Okay, you can do that online. Very simple. Make sure you have separate business bank accounts from your own personal accounts. Okay, you don't want to be commingling funds. If you have more questions about that, just Google it. It's very important for liability reasons. And then maybe the biggest thing for liability reasons is insurance, right? I imagine there's a lot of people who probably start their pest control company, don't have any of those things. Yeah. And then if something bad happens, man, that's all your personal assets that are going to be taken away from you.
And the other thing that I would add to that list also is get a separate phone. I'm sure that everybody's already thought about this, and I'm sure that everybody listening is like, duh, dude. But make sure don't use your personal cell phone as your business phone.
You have to get either a personal phone
or Google Voice.
Yes, yeah, get a different number, right? Something that if you needed to, worst case scenario, you could change or block or whatever.
Yep.
And eventually you're going to want to be able to port that number over to other things, and you don't want to have to change your personal number. So
correct.
Smart man. Okay.
Yep. All right. So let's go to number two. Number two is very simple. This is like the biggest question, right? How do I get customers? So unless there's like a magic wand for this, the first thing that I would say is there's really not like an easy way. I think we can just go ahead right off the bat and take that 4-letter E word out of the equation. There are ways to get customers, lots of ways to get customers. I don't know about easy ways. If anybody out there has easy ways of getting customers, let us know. Throw it on the group.
Oh yeah, dude. Well, and this is coming from 2 guys who started in the industry as door-to-door salesmen. Mm-hmm. And when you first start out, you're thinking, okay, dude, all I got to do is just sell my uncles, my aunts, my grandparents, my dad, my mom, like anybody that I know, right?
Mm-hmm. People from church.
Yeah, and you think, which we're going to talk about here in a second, but even that's hard. Yeah. Like even that takes some effort, and you're like, man, I could have sworn you were going to buy from me.
You have that one uncle that's like, go out and figure out what you're doing first, then come back and talk to me.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, thanks, Uncle.
Once you got
Uncle
a couple
Ted.
of accounts under your belt, then come back and I'll sign up. I promise.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think so. So yeah, there's no easy way of doing this. And like Jake said before, if this was easy, everybody would just be putting on customers like there's no tomorrow and making money, and there you go. Yep. So there's no easy way to do it. Okay, number 3. The first thing that I would do is, just get the word out to your friends and family, calling, texting, emailing, social media, right? Start with your own circle, the close-knit group of people. Those are the people who already trust you, right? And trust is a paramount foundational part of the sales process. So instead of going out to people you don't know and they have no idea who you are, right? In the beginning, go out to people who trust you already and see where you can get. You'd be surprised how many people will still support you, even though we did joke about that one uncle.
Your grandma's going to sign up, if she lives in the same city.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, get them to leave a 5-star review.
Yes.
You know, if your grandma's going to leave anything less than a 5-star review, it's time to find a new grandma, right? So hit your family up first. Be careful about this. Don't make them feel compelled to do it or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people already have a pest control company, so likely they'll just swap over to you.
Yep.
And get them to leave a review, because what you need to do right off the bat is you need to start having reviews. Otherwise, no one's ever going to see you.
Yeah. And kind of hopping around here, speaking of getting reviews, you should probably create a GMB. So
right?
You don't have a Google My Business profile, you're not
Yeah.
getting reviews, right? And I mean, we could probably even throw in there all the social media, right?
Yeah.
So get a GMB, get on Facebook, get on Instagram, get on LinkedIn, get on Twitter or X or whatever the heck it's going to be called.
Yeah.
And make sure that you have platforms for obviously not only people to find and connect with you on, but if they're going to leave reviews, they have to have a review platform to leave it on.
Correct. Yep.
Right? So I guess you could throw in Yelp in there if you wanted to.
Oh, no, don't do Yelp. Whatever you do, avoid Yelp at all costs. Sorry, Yelp.
Sorry.
You're a racket. Everybody out there knows it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a great way to start it. And you know, if you're married or you have someone that is really supporting you on the back end, maybe have them take over. Maybe have them take over your social media stuff, because it's difficult to be the one running it, to be the one servicing the accounts, to be the one answering the calls and doing all that stuff and managing your social media all at the same time. So if you're married or you've got teenage kids or whatever, like, get them involved and have them help with that.
Yeah, all the cool hip kids who know all the lingo and stuff. I'm not even going to try to throw out anything that's actually
my brain actually is blank right now.
Yeah,
I'm like, all the rad lingo, all the gnarly stuff that the kids are saying these days.
Yeah. Let's see what's next. So one thing here, and these aren't all exactly at the same time, right? It's probably kind of this linear process of what you're trying to do. Obviously, we assume that you probably already have equipment to actually do the services. If you don't already, then that's got to be on the list. But just from a branding and kind of a customer acquisition standpoint, the next thing on the list here is creating an attractive brand, right? Having good branding and making a website. So if you already have a business entity, that means you probably have a name, all right? And like any entrepreneur, you probably dreamt up a logo. You know, you have some idea of what that is. Could be worth throwing a little bit of money down, and it doesn't usually cost a lot to just go to some graphics designer. You can go on Fiverr, you can go on Upwork, you can go whatever and say, hey, here's my company name. I'm a pest control company. Can you help design me a really cool logo, right? So create some attractive branding. That way, when we're talking about social media and your website and your GNB profile and other stuff, you have something up there that actually looks legitimate, right? Like this probably doesn't happen as much with businesses, but you ever look at someone's like personal Facebook profile and like they don't have like a real picture up there?
Yeah.
And you're like, you aren't a person.
You're a bot.
Yeah.
This is a bot.
You're not real.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So get some good attractive branding. That's what I would say.
You know, and I'm gonna piggyback on that and say, if you're not good at something, like if it's not in your wheelhouse, farm it out. The great thing about being a business owner, especially like a skilled trade like pest control, is that you can just focus on what you're good at. You know, I don't know how many PCOs out there listening to this, and I mean, they're all PCOs, right? But I'm gonna make a total confession here. I don't know crap about taxes, like zero. Like CPA stuff, I know nothing about that. Accounting, dude, forget it. And what I've discovered over the past decade plus is that I don't have to know how to do accounting or taxes to be a pest control business owner. Why? Because there are CPAs and people out there, tax guys, that's what they do for a living, right? I don't know how to change the oil in my car. Why? Because there are people that's what they do for a living, right?
Yeah.
So if you're having a hard time finding good branding, or you can't get your logo right, or you don't know what colors to use, or whatever, like find someone that knows how to do it. And we've used Upwork, we've used Fiverr before for stuff. And I had a buddy who, this was many years ago, but he was finishing up graphic design school, and he hit me up and he was like, "Hey, do you need any stuff done?" And I was like, "I don't know, man. I think all our stuff's dialed in." He's like, "Well, let me just throw a couple things together and shoot it over to you." And he sent back some designs for Natura that it was awesome, and it's stuff that I never would have thought of. So sometimes when you're talking about branding or you're talking about your own thing, you can get kind of stuck in your own head about what you think something should look like, and it might not give off universal appeal.
Yeah.
You know, so if you can farm that out to somebody, they can find a lot of times you'll find someone that can create something with universal appeal. I follow this guy on Instagram. He's a graphic designer. Have you seen this guy? That's like, let's fix the Gatorade logo. Have you seen that guy?
I haven't.
It's rad. So yeah, and he's an expert at it, right? So if you're looking at your branding and you're like, oh, this kind of sucks, and my logo, then my name, it's just whatever word font that looked cool, you know, and you want something to look really unique, hire it out.
Yeah.
Hire it out.
Oh yeah. Well, and you know, I can appreciate people just starting out wanting to kind of keep things simple and, you know, not invest a whole ton of money in graphic design and all this other stuff. But dude, pest control is something that you have to kind of jump into the deep end with usually. And branding is one of those things that if you're not intentional about attracting people, then you are unintentionally dissuading people away from your brand.
Right.
Right.
Correct.
So if we're all about attracting new customers here, then you got to have good branding. Right.
And, you know, just the last thing about that, a lot of these like Fiverr and Upwork and stuff, they're graphic designers that live in like Bangladesh and Pakistan and stuff like that. And so they're excited to do work, and they've got a lot of talent, but the exchange rate for US dollar to Pakistani rupees, I think is what they use over there, or India rupees or whatever. It actually doesn't always cost a lot of money to have that done. So
it definitely doesn't.
Yeah, so you can get a great logo on a budget.
Yeah. Well, and you can, I think the last time I was on there, you can say what your budget is. So if you're like, hey, I want to spend $50, help me design a logo for this, and you set it out, and people will bid on that project.
Yep.
Right? So that's pretty sweet.
Yep. Solid. Moving on.
Okay, moving on. Let's see. What are we in, like number 7 or something? Okay. Link up with a social media influencer.
Yeah.
A local social media influencer.
Yep.
I've talked to a few different businesses who have done this. I think shout out to Travis Bottoms. I think it was Polite Pest who used social media influencers, and there was like I can't remember how many of their customers got acquired this way, but it was a lot.
Yeah.
And their cost per customer acquisition was just astronomically low.
Right.
But when you think about it, like being able to get customers is all about influence, right? Like how much of the market share you have, how much influence you have in your area. And if you can get somebody who's really solid on social media, I mean, I see social media influencers all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you look awesome. I want to buy that thing.
Yeah. And a lot of the social media influencers are, you know, like they've got a national brand, right? They do face cream or something like that. And all these Utah moms that, you know, whatever. But like Eric said, find a local social media influencer. Like there are people all over Vancouver here that their whole jam is helping people find the best ice cream shop here, and you know, and people follow them because I don't know, they've got influence. I guess that's why I call them an influencer. But if you've got a local person that you can tap into and make friends with, that can be really huge.
Yeah, I mean, and if you think about it too, if they really try to hyper target the local people, like in the community, they probably have somewhere between 10 to 25,000 followers, right?
Depending on the size of your
depending on the size of your area, right? It's not like you're looking for influencers that are in the millions and millions of followers, right? That might not be your target influencer.
Yeah. Grant Cardone is not going.
Don't reach out. But if you find the right person, you know, maybe you swap, you give them pest control for free or whatever your situation is, pay them a little commission for every person that signs up.
Yeah.
And bada bing, bada boom, right? You've got someone who's actively marketing your products and services out there to your target market. And that could be killer.
Yep.
So
the next one we've actually done a handful of times. You can sponsor a local school sports team.
Yes.
So we've done this a few times, and it's gotten us a handful of customers. I think it pays for itself plus a few.
Yeah.
But, shout out to Prairie Girls varsity basketball team, right? We've got a friend here, actually one of our office gals who started with us when she was a senior, and she was on the basketball team. And so we sponsored the basketball team. They got a T-shirt, Prairie Girls Basketball, and right smack dab in the middle of the back of the T-shirt, Natura Pest Control.
Yes.
So we've done that. We've done that a handful of times, and we've gotten people that will call in and say, I saw you guys sponsor my daughter's basketball team, and so tell me what it is, right? So
yep. Well, and sponsoring a local sports team is going to be more of an indirect way of getting customers, right? So it puts your brand in front of that target market. And so you're hoping that when they have a pest problem, they search for pest control companies near me, they see your brand, they connect the two, and they're thinking, oh, yeah, that's that company that sponsors the sports team, right? And the other thing, too, is depending on what the cost of that sponsorship is and what their pest control needs are, you might be able to pull off some trade, right?
Yep. Yeah.
So, anytime that you can do trade for marketing, that's a pretty sweet deal.
Yeah, and it's hard to gauge those because if they saw your ad on the back of the T-shirt for Prairie Girls Varsity Basketball, and they call in, and the office girls ask, "Well, how'd you find us?" "Oh, I Googled."
Yep.
Right, so it's not like you don't know.
Yeah, you're not going to see the attribution of that, right?
Exactly.
And so you just have to know that you're not going to see a direct ROI from stuff like that, but it's still a really good way to get your brand out there.
Yeah, and we at a few years ago, it was actually 2 seasons in a row, we sponsored the Ridgefield Raptors, which was a amateur. What do you call that? They're like college.
Oh yeah, like a minor league baseball team.
Minor league team. And it was cool. We had a big huge banner in the outfield, and they had Natura night, and it was just we had giveaways and we'd set up a booth and stuff. Yeah. So that was pretty cool. I don't know if we got a whole lot of sales from that. I think that would cost us way more than we got out of it. But in terms of like public relations, sometimes those things can be big. And when you're talking about getting your name out there and getting your brand out there, sometimes the things that you spend money on don't necessarily equate exactly to bringing customers in the door. Sometimes it's just a matter of getting your name in front of people's, because what do they say, 7 times?
Whatever that multiple is, how many times someone has to see your brand before they make a decision, and that's assuming that they're wanting to make a purchase decision right then. Right. So it's like planting little seeds. The more seeds that you can plant around your community where people see your brand, the more likely they are to pick the fruit when you want them to.
Yeah, you get top of mind.
Yeah.
It's an important thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. Okay, this next one here is join or create a referral networking group. And in parentheses, we put a good one.
A good one.
Right? You've probably heard of BNIs and some type of business networking type groups and stuff. The whole point of these is to help each other get referrals, right? If it's me, I might circumvent traditional BNIs altogether, and I might just directly reach out to other companies in my community that I like their brand. I'm like, wow, you guys seem like you fit the vibe, right? And I'm going to go to people like lawn care companies, home inspectors, general, like DIY general contractor types.
Yeah, GCs,
And I'm going to say, hey, listen, right? Like I'm a pest control company. I see customers all the time that have needs that your company fulfills. I'm guessing you probably see something.
Vice versa.
Yeah, right. How about we trade leads, right? And you can just go straight up like, hey, like, you send me leads, I'll send you leads. That's as much as we have to say about it. Really easy, right? And you kind of circumvent all of the red tape that I don't want to say BNIs have a whole lot of that, but they cost money and there's some other things in there and things you kind of want to avoid, right?
Yeah, that really is all about relationships.
Yes.
You build a good relationship, and that works great, like Eric said, with lawn care companies or landscaping companies, because what pest control does and what landscaping does, it's so linked together. You're in people's yards, you're doing all that stuff. Yep. House cleaners, Mary Maids or whatever, and that's a great because it doesn't cost anything.
Yeah,
it literally doesn't cost anything.
Well, and especially like maids, you think about maids and house cleaners, homekeepers, whatever. They don't want to work in an environment where there's bugs, right? So like if they're trying to, clean up this house and the person's like, well, hey, like, what do I do about these ants? Well, they're not going to have anything to do about that. Well, it's like, oh, well, I actually have this company that I partner with. Let me get their contact information for you. Pow, referral, right?
So. And so let me just say this too. This bullet point is all about relationships, right? So if you know a realtor, real estate agent,
oh yeah,
then you've got a good relationship with a real estate agent. We've gotten in with agents before where they leave a new move-in services, right? This is who you should call for your carpet cleaning and for your yada yada yada, right? Well, you get in with them and they put your ad in their little leave behind for new homeowners, and that can be a really cool way. We have a couple of builders that we have a good partnership with, and it's a lot of like one-time stuff.
Yeah.
But like they've got somebody moving in, or they just finished a model home or something. They want to have a one-time service, sweep the webs and make it look nice. So that brings in a little like periodic business, but $150 one time is better than no $150 no time. Right?
Yes.
So
100%.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on. Let's see. What are we at here?
We got lost, huh?
Number 10.
Oh, 10.
Yes. Okay. So joining local Facebook neighborhood groups. If you're on Facebook, you guys have probably seen these before. I don't know how people have them divided up where you live, but over here we just have all these like little townships or boroughs or whatever, and they just have their own little Facebook group about it, right? It's kind of like a next door, neighborhood community.
Right. Yep.
Where they talk about stuff. They talk about everything, right? They talk about the weather. They talk about power outages. They talk about
there's a dog loose.
Yeah.
There's a black dog in my front yard.
Right. And in there, we've seen it. They'll ask like, hey, who do you guys have for pest control? Right. Like we have ants. Have you guys seen the wasps? Do you guys have whatever it is? And if you can be referred in those groups, that's crazy money.
Yep.
Right. Sometimes those Facebook groups have rules where
you can't directly advertise.
Yeah, you can't directly advertise, or you can't be a business in that group. Right. So if you can join the group personally, and you can actually share some value or prove some value, then you can kind of comment and say, hey, yeah, like I run a local company, pest control company called this. I'd be happy to help. Here's my contact information. Right. And then if you're lucky, you'll have other people in that neighborhood who already use you, and then they heart the message and say, yeah, definitely use them. Use these guys. They're great. They're awesome. I love them, etc.
That happens to us probably once, especially in the summertime, once a week
at least
or more.
Yeah.
Where somebody says, hey, I just moved into the neighborhood. I've got ants. Who should I call? And we'll have a customer. Or usually my wife is, she's on top of all that stuff. But sometimes we'll have a customer and say, hey, I mentioned you guys in this post on Facebook, and we'll go back and look. And it's like, hey, I just moved into the neighborhood. I've got ants. Who do I use for pest control? And it's like, Natura. Yep. And then someone will mention somebody else, and then Natura. And dude, that is just such a cool little feather in your cap when you see other people saying, oh, dude, call these guys.
Yes.
They're the ones you want to call.
Yep.
And then that's that social proofing too.
100%.
If the neighbor says it, then it's got to be it's got to be good, right?
Yeah, well, it's like, you get one person who says it, and you're like, oh, wow, yeah. 2 people to say it, you're like, oh, I guess that's a pretty popular choice.
Yep.
3 or 4 people to say it, you're like, well, dude, I'm going to be an idiot if I don't use this pest control company, right? So anyway.
Don't want to be the moron in the neighborhood.
Exactly. Okay, moving on. Let's see. Number 11, use a business lead sharing platform like Baton. Okay, we've used Baton for a few years. We've talked about Baton. Baton has a course on the BugBucks Plus education platform.
That's true. Yep.
But basically, platforms like that, I actually think that Baton's probably one of a kind for now anyway. But they connect businesses together within the same markets. And then when a lead comes in your business that you don't handle, let's say, for example, we talk about trapping raccoons.
Right.
We don't do that.
We don't do raccoons.
But there are other companies on their platform who do. So we've paid for that lead to come in. We can now sell that lead to the other company who does it, right? And then we get a little bit of money back for that lead, which we paid for. And they get a referral lead for cheap, right? They make money. Everyone's happy. You can also buy those same leads in reverse from other companies that don't do things, but you do.
Yep.
Right? So shout out to Baton, a little free advertising blip for you.
Yeah. And let me just throw one other item in there about that too. We get a lot of Baton leads from other pest control companies who don't do things like take care of moles, or they don't do wood destroying organisms or something.
Yep.
And we have all those licenses, right? So we'll get referrals from other pest control companies for doing pest control stuff because we're licensed and they're not. And so then obviously the rules of engagement or whatever with leads like that is you do not go in and try to swipe the other company's customer. No swiping. You go in, you do your thing, swipe or no swiping, you keep it clean.
Yep.
But that's just a tip for getting licensed in everything.
Yes.
Just go get licensed in everything.
100%.
Yeah.
Okay. Next, we got trade show and community events. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the trade show side of this, and I'm going to let Jake talk about the community event side of this because we actually have something coming up that's pretty awesome.
Oh, yeah, buddy.
But trade show-wise, these are kind of hit and miss. Again, it's another way for you to get your brand out there. I don't know how much it costs to typically go to a trade show. You get a booth, you set things up, right, and people come by and see your brand. You can talk to people, engage with the community. You usually can sign up a handful of people at trade shows. I'd say maybe there's got to be maybe a quarter of the people there looking to make a purchase decision.
Right.
The other 75% are just there just to be there.
Looky-loos.
Right? Yeah, right. So you can make some sales at trade shows, and people see your brand, which is kind of cool.
Yep.
As far as community events go,
take it from here, Jake. So community events, so we do. I don't know how many times we mentioned the parade. So we do this parade, and that's a big thing. And years ago, we used to not only do the parade, but then we'd set up a booth because there's like a little community area where they've got booths set up for everything, and people just mingle around and eat hot dogs and stuff. And so we'd set up these booths, and everybody would come up to the booth. Oh my gosh, you guys were awesome. What do you guys do? And so then you're just signing people up at that parade booth. We've actually had a lot of success signing people up. And we did another parade that I can remember up in another town here where we live. And we set up a booth. I think it cost $20 for the event to set up the booth. And we had one of our sales guys just hang out there, just talking to people. And in one day, I think that our guy Hayden, I think that he put on like 9 accounts that day, just standing there in the booth. And so
luckiest sales he's ever going to put on.
Right? Yeah, I mean, like this record day for him or whatever. But I mean, that's so community events are big time. It doesn't have to just be that. This can also include things like, do we have this? I don't think we have this on here. But another community type of event would be if you have kids in school. Right? You got elementary school kids, talk to the teacher and say, hey, can I come in and do like a pest demonstration? Oh, yeah. And you come in and you talk about bugs, and maybe you bring some rubber bugs and stuff and give them to the kids. That kind of stuff can really gain some traction because every single parent of all those kids knows that, hey, you came in and visited their class. That's pretty cool. So it's just another one of those. It puts you top of mind. Yeah. You might not see an exact dollar correlation between that and gaining customers, but it just builds your name and your reputation in your community.
Yeah. And for you guys listening to this whole list and wondering, when we're going to get to some of the more traditional modes and methods, we're starting from the easiest and we're going to go all the way down to the hardest. Okay.
Yep.
So as we're kind of getting into some of the more traditional methods, the next one that we have here on our list is direct mailers. Okay. So, pros and cons. Direct mailers is good because it can get your brand out to a lot of people, and it typically isn't that expensive. But you just have to understand from the consumer perspective, when you get a direct mailer in the mail, right, where does it usually go?
Well, there's 2 names for direct mailers. On the advertising side, they're called direct mailers.
Yes.
On the consumer side, it's called junk mail.
Yes. Right. So you just have to know that If that direct mailer gets to your customer right around the time when they're thinking about pest control, then you might get lucky. Okay. And so the rule of probability tells you that it could get you a good ROI. Just don't have high hopes for direct mailers.
Yeah, we got surprised one time. So there was
Yeah.
a gal that used to do direct mailers for North Clark County, and she pitched us, and we're like, "Why not? We'll give it a shot." And we actually got a lot of sales, a lot of customers
All right.
from this direct mailer because it went out to all the people that lived out in Clark County, right? Like on acreage and stuff. And somehow that little flyer for a few years just performed like crazy.
Love it, dude.
And then COVID killed it.
Oh.
Yeah, she went out of business during COVID.
Oh, dang it, dude.
Yeah, COVID casualty.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess, direct mailers you can probably put in the same category as like little sections in magazines, stuff like that.
Yeah, we have a local Vancouver magazine.
Yes.
That a friend of ours does, Vancouver Family, I think it's called. And we've done ads in that magazine for years.
Yeah, so it's not exactly the same medium, but kind of a similar way. Like that kind of thing, again, indirect as direct mailing can be.
Right, yeah.
Right? But yeah, so that one was next on our list.
Yep.
Hanging flyers.
Yeah.
Hanging flyers.
Yeah.
So
don't do this. Don't do this yourself. This is you have better ways to spend your time.
yeah, pay nieces and nephews and kids. Pay them like $20 for a brick of flyers, right? And just have them go to these neighborhoods and just flyer them up, right? Just make sure that you verify that they're doing that and not just tossing them.
Make
in the
sure they have
garbage.
adult supervision.
Yeah, that can be smart.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, adult supervision. Smart. Okay.
We're not going to spend a lot of time on that one.
No.
Moving on.
You get the idea.
Yeah.
Okay, moving into the more traditional stuff, I should say digital. So get Google Guaranteed, okay, and start using LSA or local service ads. So we've talked, you got your GMB, you got your website, you got all that stuff. You want to get into the paid digital advertising aspect of things. Getting Google Guaranteed can take a little bit of time. Google has some parameters you have to follow in there.
Yeah.
But once you do, it allows you to advertise through local service ads. And those ads, like those leads, come directly to you through your Google profile. And if they're not good leads, you can dispute those and get your money back, which is something that you cannot do through other platforms. Not typically, anyway.
Yeah.
So Google Guaranteed, LSA, those are the same thing. Figure out how to do it. It takes some extra effort, but it's worth it. I can't vouch for the ROI or the cost per click or cost per lead or whatever. Just if you're going to get into digital marketing, that's a good thing to get into.
Yeah.
So we'll move on.
Yep.
Next one, learn how to use Google Ads and start pay-per-click.
Yeah.
Right? So, if you're going to journey into the digital marketing side of things, and again, like Jake was saying before, if you're not a marketing guru, you should consider hiring somebody to do this for you.
Speaking of not being a guru, I swear, for like 2 whole years, I thought pay-per-click was like paper-click. Like, and I didn't even ask anybody about it because I was like, this is just must be one of those technical terms that means something. But I literally thought it was pay-per-click.
What does it mean?
And then I remember one time I said, like, where's the paper or something like that, and Jana just could not believe that I could be so dumb to think that it was pay-per-click.
It is, you pay per click.
Yeah, and I was like, that makes so much more sense.
I wish I could have been a fly on the wall for that conversation. Jake, you're like, yeah, I know it's pay-per-click. What the hell are you saying? Like, what's going on? So, love it.
Yeah.
Okay, and we have to dive too far into the details on that. You guys know what PPC is, but learn how to use it and start using it, and start that digital marketing journey. That'd be a fun one.
Yep.
Okay. The next one is, I'll call these bulk lead sharing platforms. I don't know exactly how to describe these. We're talking the Angie List and the Thumbtack and whatever other thing where you share lead volume with other people and it's like first person to call the customer gets it.
Right.
And like I put that below PPC and LSA because if I'm going to put money into digital marketing and the time into learning how to use something, I kind of want to do typical LSA and PPC. Angie can be a little weird. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I will say that if you
it's
learn
like
how to use
feeding
it,
frenzy,
like
Yeah, you get that lead and you call 30 seconds later,
Yes.
and somebody else has already jumped on it.
Yeah, and you're like, what the hell, man? Like, this is
Yeah.
crazy. But I will say, if there's a lot of guys in the group who are very good at streamlining the process and have had a lot of success with those platforms.
Mm-hmm.
So, but you have to know that if you don't pay attention, if you don't have a streamlined process, they'll just take your money and you won't get anything from it.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Okay. Next one.
I'll do the next one. Yeah. So Cloverleaf existing customers. So now we're
yes.
getting into the beating the pavement situation here. So I know everybody knows what cloverleafing is. If you don't know what cloverleafing is, it just means that after you service that customer's house, you go and you knock the 2 next door neighbors and the 2 neighbors across the street, like a 4-leaf clover. And that's great because, number one, you're in your technician servicing clothes. You don't look like a door-to-door sales guy. Just the fact that your truck is parked there, and even just carry your bee pole. We call it a bee pole, or your Webster brush or whatever. Carry that in your hand as you go door to door. There is a total air of legitimacy that follows you when you go from house to house, and your truck is in front of Mrs.
there.
Johnson's house, and you're standing there and saying, "Hey, I just got done servicing Mrs. Johnson's house. These are the things that I was taking care of. I'm just checking with the neighbors because bugs have a tendency of going, from house to house. So, what bugs are you seeing right now, or however your pitch goes? If you're uncomfortable with going door to door, that is like one of the easiest transitions into it, because nobody is going to get mad at you for having just serviced their neighbor across the street and then you're coming over. Now, if you're a sales guy with an iPad and a little wheelie dealy thing, being, pressuring everybody to sign up, that's different. But showing up as the technician, we've had sales guys that have been technicians for us in the off season, and they have said, "Dude, next year when I go to sell, I'm just going to carry a bee pole in my hand, dress up like a technician, and go door to door because the response is completely different."
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You know what? Let me just say this too. Maybe we can put this on the next one, but maybe this is a good transition. So if you're like Dominion Pest, or Zona, or you name Rife, or whoever is new door to door or new pest control company, and you've just started out, I swear, when you knock on somebody's door and you say, "Hi, I am Jake. I am the owner of this pest control company, and I'm trying to build my business here. I really want to earn your business." That also has a totally different air of legitimacy.
Yes.
Because when you say, "It's me, I'm the guy, I'm going to be here tomorrow, and it's going to be me servicing your house," who can get mad at that? I mean, unless you're a communist and you don't like people pursuing the American dream, right?
Yeah.
But that's a totally different ball of wax.
Yep.
And any of the nerves that you have about knocking doors, if you are the business owner and you're going to knock the doors, dude, you should just loosen your belt a little bit and breathe a little bit, because it's a totally different experience.
Oh yeah. Well, and I'll say too that since we're kind of on the topic of clover leafing and maybe milking the customers that you have already, when you're finished working with that customer, right, and you've verified that the whole experience was 10 out of 10, asking for reviews you've talked about already. Ask for referrals.
Oh, every
right?
time.
Yeah. Hey, if you feel like I delivered a 5-star service today, that's perfect, right? Oh, leave me a review. That's great. Hey, who else do you know that would love to have an awesome service like this, right? Do you have any friends and family that you'd be happy to refer? I'd be happy to give them a friends and family discount, and I'd be happy to give you X amount of dollars off your next monthly bill.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. Incentivize it.
Yeah. Create some kind of program.
We've got one of our very best friends, who knocked doors for us for several years, and then he's just remained a best friend of ours. He's like a brother, and he's just started a pest control company in Utah, and he's hitting us up. Hey, in fact, he just texted me right before we started recording. Hey, what rodent bait blocks do you use? And so I'm like giving him some tips on that, and anyway, when he started knocking doors for his own company, and he and I had a long conversation a couple weeks ago, and he's like, dude, knocking doors as the owner of the company is totally different. Yes. The response I'm getting from people on the doors is totally different. So the reason why I'm saying that is because number 19 on our list is pound the ground and knock doors.
Yes.
Get your first 100, 150 accounts face to face, because those people will stick with you forever. They will be the most loyal customers. We had a handful of customers in this one little town, and after we'd been in business for 4 years, 5 years, we had our team go down there, and they're knocking doors, and they knock on this old lady's door, and she goes, oh, no, I'm not switching ever. Don't even ask. And the sales guy finally got out, well, what pest control company are you using? She goes, Jake is my bug guy. I'm not ever switching. And the sales guy was like, wait, Jake? You mean like Jake Claus? And she's like, yeah, don't even talk to me. And he's like, no. This is Jake Klaus's company. I am Jake Klaus. And she was like, oh, okay, come on in. You want a lemonade or whatever? So those first 100 customers are going to be like, they're going to stick. And last year on our 10-year anniversary, maybe I've mentioned this before, on our 10-year anniversary, we put together a box, like a package. And we looked up out of all of our first customers, that first September and October, we still had a whole handful of them that had been on service continually for 10 years. And so we put together this box, and I called them and talked to each one of them and said, hey, we're going to send you a box. And there's this gal who was, I swear, she was like Imhotep's mother. She's like old as dirt. And she was ancient back then, 10 years ago. And I call her, and I'm like, oh no, I'm afraid that she's going to be dead, And I call her, and she goes, oh, hi, Jake. And I was like, oh, hi, Irma, how you doing? And she remembered every single detail.
Wow.
of the encounter that I had with her. And not only that, she had referred me to like a dozen of her family members. Everybody that she knows uses our company because of that interaction. So here's what I'm saying. If you have just started your pest control company and you're trying to put on accounts, you're trying to put on customers, and you need a way to go and you find your first 100, 150 customers, do not be afraid of getting your clipboard or getting your app or whatever and going door to door and introducing yourself as the owner of the company. And here are the magic words. I really want to earn your business.
Yes.
Those are the words. If I'm at home and some kid comes and knocks on my door and says, hey, I just started whatever, landscaping company or whatever. It's just me. I'm just starting out. I really want a chance to earn your business. Dude, when he says earn your business, my heart melts. And I'm like, okay, maybe that's just the entrepreneur in me. Yeah. But my heart melts. And I'm like, dude, you're living the American dream. Somewhere off in the distance, an eagle screeches,
Yeah, dude.
I'm like, yes, okay, I'll give you a shot. So if you're afraid of knocking doors, going that route actually is, I believe, going to soften the experience for you.
Yes, 100%. And I know we're short on time, so we're going to move on to number 20, the last thing on the list here.
Why is this even on here?
Okay, this doesn't really count. But, since we're going from easiest to hardest all the way down at the bottom here, the only thing that's really harder than knocking doors and putting on your own accounts is just purchasing another pest control company, right? Like business acquisition.
Yeah, acquisition.
So, not that this really applies to probably anybody in this group or listening to this podcast, but if you just have a crap ton of money, right, and you want to run a pest control company, right?
Yeah.
Then go find another local business and buy it.
Yep.
And there you go. You got pest control accounts.
Yep.
Right. So anyway, but we've had episodes about acquisitions and stuff, and typically, we're talking dollar per dollar on revenue at least, depending on the size, right? But that's equivalent to basically spending 100% commission to a door-to-door sales guy, right? Yep. When you buy those accounts,
and generally speaking, those are going to be smaller companies. We just did our first acquisition. Was that last fall?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, last fall. And it was a really cool experience. and it was a local guy. He was a small one-man operation, and I don't know if we've mentioned this on the show before, but I'll say it again. We were actually at Pest World, and I got a text message. I got a text from him, and he said, "Hey, when you get back from Pest World, let's go out for coffee." And I was like, "Sounds good." So we met up, and Jana said, $5 says he wants to sell us his company, and I was like, "I'm not going to take that bet because I think that you're right." So I got out there and we chatted, and 5 minutes in, he goes, "So I'm moving on to other things. I've been called to this other thing, and I want to sell my pest control company, and there's only one company that I'm going to sell it to." He said, I won't sell it to anybody but you guys. If you're not interested in buying my company, I'm going to have to figure something else out." But he's like, "I've been watching your journey. I've been seeing you guys. I'm impressed with how you guys do business. I'm impressed with your customer interactions, and you're it. So are you in or not?" And it was a super cool experience, right? And so, but it is expensive. It does cost.
Yep.
But what we have noticed is that those customers that switched over because of the way that we did the process, all those customers are like locked in. Like they went from being his locked in customers to our locked in customers.
Yep.
Yeah. So maybe someday we'll do a little episode on how we did that acquisition, because it was unique and different than a lot of the ways that other
we could do a couple episodes. We could do a whole series on acquisitions, right?
Yep.
But just the keeping the customers on board afterwards and making it worth your while and getting good ROI, that could be good. So awesome. Well, dude, that's our list. Our 20 ways to get customers, right? From the easiest all the way down to the hardest.
Yep.
We appreciate you guys listening in. If you have a coworker, a manager, or an owner who could benefit from listening to this episode, the best way to say thank you to them is to share this episode. If you haven't joined the Facebook group yet, go find the group and join. It's BugBucks Plus. Lots of information and great connections there. And if you have a topic you want discussed here on the podcast, make sure you drop it in the group. As always, this episode is brought to you by BugBucks Plus, the #1 training and education platform designed to help you build and scale your pest control company. Visit bugbucksplus.com to sign up and start building today. Thanks again for listening in, and until next time, keep building those pest control companies.
Don't forget to hit subscribe.
And don't forget to hit subscribe.
You're listening to the Bug Bucks Podcast, hosted by Eric Bassett and Jake Claus.